Welcome to Freedom Rocs.
And then
We're here in the Legislative Office Building in Albany, covering the second annual Sportsman and Outdoor Recreation Legislative Awareness Day. This is a day when hunters, fishermen, firearm enthusiasts gather in Albany to lobby our legislators for pro-gun legislation and against anti-gun legislation. Enjoy.
Actually, a big thing right now, and you know as well as I know, that microstamping thing hasn't died, and all the support we've always gotten from you, I would hope that we continue to get. That's jobs.
Oh, it is.
Jobs for us, so that everybody knows. We just started making the 1911 6 months ago, maybe, around that time frame, and if this becomes a bill, the microstamping bill in New York State, the company said it's pretty simple. Mayfield, Kentucky will make it. I mean, if you make this law, microstamping bill law, specific to New York State, we'll just move the jobs to Kentucky, which, the machine and plus the unproven technology. I mean, Mark, we've educated and worked with Mark all the time and explained our feelings and everything that goes on here. And now in upstate New York, we can't afford to lose 60 decent-paying jobs. So.
Literally, last year we announced an expansion at Remington and left, with a great feeling and come back to Albany for a session, and we're debating the microstamping bill that afternoon about, as he said, will cost us jobs at the Albany plant, but in the morning we just announced there would be additional jobs coming, so it's an interesting set of circumstances, but hopefully that'll work out. So what,
in the chambers, what kind of feeling you get from this bill or this idea of microstamping? What kind of feeling you get out of the?
Well, I'm sure you guys know there's a certain element, primarily a downstate element, that anything that is considered an anti-gun bill, they kind of support. They understand our culture. I don't think they understand, and through the debate, we are left with the sense they don't understand a lot of the science and a lot of technology of shooting sports. They're puzzled by the language of it all and how it all works. So my guess is if it comes up this year, it would probably pass again in the Assembly by a fairly substantial margin. Although we did pick up some seats in this last election on the Republican side, we may be able to. But I'm fairly certain it will pass. Good news is we have the Republican majority in the Senate, and I think we can count on them to kind of backstop it. But the point being is that, we're the contact point in the Assembly. That's where these things get a thorough debate and airing. And so we're kind of on the front lines in the battle.
Is this considered a crime preventive bill? And the fact that the microstamp?
I don't know that they consider it a crime prevention bill as much as a crime solution bill. They're convinced that if you could match up the numbers, that there's a crime committed and you have serial numbers on ammunition, you can match up and find the perpetrator. I think you're kind of selling the bad guy short. I think it's very easy to modify the number or change the scratch on the firing pin and change it around, so that's inconclusive, and they want to put this
that's how successful as it's been elsewhere. They tried it elsewhere, and has it been successful?
Yeah, well, I think in California they voted to do it, and then found out that the actual implementation was much different than what they envisioned, and I don't know if they have it yet. It's been several years, hasn't it?
I think it's been repealed now, I believe.
Yeah. So I know in the debate last year they used the example of the Times Square bombing, how I guess serial numbers from the car they were able to match up, and how they traced the car back and then went to the car rental place and found the perpetrator. That was the analogy they used repeatedly. They work in much the same manner.
You know, I was reading the bill. I was curious about one thing. It says in there that the assembly finds that, you know, you can fire a gun thousands of times without changing the microstamping. And, you know, I've seen scientific studies that show you can fire a gun a dozen times and it will alter the stamp. So how does the assembly find these things? I mean, they just they just pull this out of thin air, or where is that?
Well, and that's one of the things, you know, where do you get your information that you're basing this on from? And that's always been a little sketchy. Again, last year we had some pretty strong documentation from a fellow who was an engineer, a longtime engineer at Remington and Ilion, who's now a consultant for police agencies on these. And you would think if this had any practical application, somebody who helps out the police agencies would be supportive. And he said the technology is just not there. It would be a monumental waste of time, money, and effort to try and implement this. And so.
Did you know Freedom Rocs has swag? You can help stimulate the economy and show how much you like Freedom Rocs at the same time. We've got t-shirts for men and women. We've got coffee mugs and beer steins. We've got food and beverage thermoses. You can get your own Freedom Rocs swag with the show logo, as seen in the opening title of the show, right here at our Cafe Press shop. That's cafepress.com/freedomrocs.
Yeah, do you have a reading on what sort of regulations, minimum standards the state police might set if the safe storage passes? Do you anticipate it would be comparable to the regulations, the standards set by the California DOJ?
I would suspect if we get legislation, they would use things like that to base it on. It would probably approximate that, yeah. And again, I'm not specifically familiar with what those are.
And one of the problems with these bills is they leave it up to bureaucrats to actually write the regulations. They're not actually in the law, so they could come up with anything. They could say, like, you need a 700-pound safe to make sure that no one can steal the safe from your house, and then you have to pay some ridiculous amount of money for that. I mean, there's nothing in the law that would stop, you know, the executive branch from promulgating that kind of regulation. It's just not a problem.
Well, that's one of the issues, and you know, we have a new administration here. We're still kind of feeling our way along. We don't really know people he's appointing to some of these positions, their views on some of these issues. So we're kind of still in a transition period right now. I don't know how aggressively they're all going to pursue some of these things, and we'll kind of wait and see.
Our combined ballistic identification system?
I don't think it
hasn't had any convictions at all.
I don't think it's led to
my understanding is
suspicion of one crime.
that's
That was my understanding too, that it isn't. There's absolutely no
that was a
result.
big so-called holy grail of
Yeah.
And now there's a bill to expand it to rifles and shotguns.
yeah, that's
Another waste of money.
Yeah. You're right.
What other gun issues should I be focused on?
Well, we definitely the micro-stamping, that's the key one. About pistol permit renewals, we strongly oppose pistol permit renewals. We understand that a lot of counties in our state have the pistol permit renewal system, but we don't support it statewide. And the reason being is because we're snake-bitten taxpayers. We know that if we give an inch now and concede to a renewal for 5 years for $20, which was a proposal that was thrown out there last year, we know that the next time that renewal comes up, it's not going to be $20.
That's why 5 years. In Canada, they made it, and then it was $5, $20, $100, and then pretty soon the guy says, then you had to lay out the route you're going to take your gun down to the gun club. You had to disassemble your gun. Then they just made it so miserable.
Incremental steps. And then this goes to another extreme. California, about 15 years ago, they had their so-called assault weapons ban, where they said, okay, well, you can keep what you have, but you just have to register it. Within a year, they were asking people to turn them in. So it became a confiscation. And we just don't want to give an inch because from experience, we know that if we give an inch, we're going to lose a mile. So we strongly oppose any pistol permit renewal system. We want it shut down completely. Also,
two things that down the road bear consideration. Number one, with the handgun permit process, okay, when it was developed in 1933, and I was involved in the retail sale of firearms for 20 years, the state left it to the county to administer it.
Yeah, and I thought you were going to say you were involved. I know better. I don't know if these other folks know better.
The state left it to the counties to administer it the way they see fit. Consequently, the rules are different for getting a New York State handgun permit. They vary from county to county. Okay? And one thing, and I think I can speak for all the school members we'd like to see eliminated, is the arbitrary decisions of the judges in the counties. Okay? If a person chooses to exercise their Second Amendment rights and apply for a New York State handgun permit, if they've never been convicted of a felony or have no mental issues, that should be granted, not at the discretion of a judge. And it's not too bad in Wayne County, it could be better, but in other counties, the judges are very arbitrary. Okay? And at one time in Wayne County, one of the issues that was brought up is that, well, one of the reasons for getting a pistol permit is like carrying a large amount of money. When I drove right into Mike Jankowski's office and said, you define a large amount of money. I want the definition of it. Okay, to a rich person, $1,000 is chump change, and a poor person, $20 is large. So what's the cutoff? If I carry $500, you're going to give me a pistol permit. If I carry $450, you're not. Okay. So, but anyhow, it is very arbitrary county to county, and it should be, heaven knows what I'm asking for, but there should be some state guidelines. It could be a lot easier.
The NRA has been advocating for years for a statewide uniform registry.
Yes.
Registry licensing process.
Yes.
Licensing process.
Uniform is the key word here.
Well, they've done, so the judge in Cortland and the judge in Westchester are dealing with the same.
I spoke to you about the pistol permit database that got out on the internet last year. We need a bill that would stop that from happening again. I didn't see that on the list of bills. I've got the list of bills that are up for vote this year, and I didn't see that on there. And I wish that we could get something like that.
What would you like to see? Just the type of website?
The addresses and the addresses and phone numbers. We don't want that given out because right now all of our information, 2 million pistol permit holders in the state, all of our information was thrown out on the web.
I remember that issue.
And it's a safety issue for all.
Someone wants to steal a gun, they know where to go.
It was one door.
Yeah.
Yeah, the state, the
Yes.
person that pulled it put it out on the sheet.
Right,
Put
that's
it on the
correct.
internet.
And the state police gave all that information to this person within 6 days of the FOIL request. It took me 3 months to get that person's name. I did a reverse FOIL request on the person who got the database. I got his name, and the state police refused to give me his address. I found it, and I continued, I appealed it, I kept going at him, and then I never heard back anymore, so I've given up on it. But I wanted to force the state police to give me that information. They refused. They said it was his privacy. Yet, they had no qualms about giving out 2 million legal, law-abiding citizens information out. You know, that's not right.
There's not a pistol permit holder in this room, when he left his home this morning, didn't have a concern about somebody breaking in while he's gone. I think I don't think anybody argues that. And whenever we leave, whenever we travel, the fact that an individual, regardless of their intent, or because of their intent, knows where we live, know that we possess handguns.
And the person who put that information on the website, he must have been versed in database queries, which that's what I do for a living, because he actually made it so that he could search by city. I could type in Palmyra, and I would have the list of all the names and addresses of everybody in Palmyra that owns a pistol. And then he mocked the gun owners on his website. And I don't want to hurt your feelings, but he also mocked you as well. When you wrote that letter to the Attorney General's office, he posted it on his website, and he was mocking the attempts to stop that information. He had an agenda, and shortly after that, he did take the pistol permit information off of his website, but then what he did was he started smearing Republican Senate candidates throughout the state.
Who was he?
His name was Nathan Kennedy from Owego, New York.
I wonder if he was so organized that
It almost had to be, because when I found out about it, I backtracked all the ISPs and internet stuff I could do from where I work. And I came up with names in Pennsylvania here and there. And then finally I got the one out of San Francisco, then one in Pennsylvania, and finally I got the one in Owego. I finally got the one in Owego. I found that I had to backtrack like 15 different website names, ISP numbers, to get the one that finally tracked back in, because he had bought so many and moved everything all around.
you're suggesting that legislation to prevent the dissemination of that material.
Yeah.
Because right now you cannot get the information from the DMV, so why should you have to get the information on our pistol permits? So we can't, this is not good.
The new superintendent of the state police is coming before my committee in a few weeks to be confirmed. This is a former decorated officer from the New York City Police Department who is very well qualified to be the superintendent. But I think I'll use the occasion certainly to bring this issue up.
Please do.
This is something that would be eliminated if we had the prohibition. But the FOIL request seems like it was put forward in a way that was too easy to orchestrate.
Scope has foiled the handgun permit database in the past for like the Buffalo area or maybe the Rochester area or a certain county, so we could send like newsletters down, like kind of recruit new members. We didn't find it very effective because most of the guys didn't even know where didn't even know why we were sending the stuff, so that marketing avenue didn't work. But,
And I got a couple of quick things.
But
as you may have noticed, you can watch Freedom Rocs for free on RCTV or on YouTube, but it takes money to produce good quality TV shows. You can support Freedom Rocs by shopping at our Cafe Press shop. There you can find t-shirts for men and women, tote and gym bags, coffee mugs, beer steins, food and beverage thermoses, and a bunch of other items Cafe Press offers. You can find our shop at cafepress.com/freedomrocs, all lowercase and no apostrophe.
the second issue that's important to me, okay, the federal government provides a list to dealers of reciprocal states, okay. A lot of states recognize other states' handgun permits, okay. Like your driver's license, you can take a New York State driver's license and legally drive from here to California and back and go through every state in the union. And with handguns, some states recognize New York State's handgun permit. Kentucky is one, for instance. But you can't get to any of them from here. And this was Newt Gingrich proposed this when he was Speaker of the House when the Clinton administration, and he didn't go anywhere. But none of the states that surround New York, which is New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Ohio, etc., Vermont, okay, Massachusetts, none of the states that surround New York will honor New York State's handgun permit because New York won't honor theirs. Okay, and at some point, Lord knows nobody's been through more background checks than a New York State person to get a handgun permit. But at some point, it would be nice if you could legally cross the state line with it. But reciprocity is something that there should be. Okay. And it's back to the old saw. The criminals don't care. They'll cross the state line because they're criminals. They don't care. You can write all the laws you want. It's not going to bother them because they don't abide by the law. You apply for a handgun permit, and the county sheriff does a NICS check on you, a COBIS check, or NICS really. He calls the federal government, runs a NICS check on you, same as a dealer would do when you go to purchase any gun. And if the next check comes back, okay, the Fed says, yep, no wants, no warrants, never been adjudicated on mental defective, never been convicted of domestic violence, the guy's clean. They give him a pistol permit. In New York, it takes anywhere from 6 weeks to 6 months, depending on the county, okay? And all they basically do is run the same background check.
And I think the question I have, is it because New York City's law is so restricted that the reciprocity just wouldn't?
Well, New York City, they march to a different drummer. They march to a different drummer.
You're asking for state law to be changed, which is that well, right now, if they give us reciprocity, they'll get reciprocity.
Yes.
That's right. It's a law that's on the books, you're saying.
No, it's not on the books, okay?
It's like a gentleman's agreement.
It's like a gentleman's agreement, okay? The only states that recognize New York State's permit, I think there's a total of 6 in the country. But Utah, okay, a lot of people are getting Utah permits now. Utah recognizes 32 states. Okay, they recognize the permit in 32 states. But all these people with handgun permits, and a permit is pretty much the same from state to state. Okay? All these people that have permits have been through the same background check that they go through in New York. Okay? But none of the states that surround New York, you can't cross into them legally with a handgun because New York won't recognize their permits. Okay. Yeah, but a guy from Pennsylvania can drive into New York on a Pennsylvania driver's license. He didn't take a New York State driver's test, but he's got a PA driver's license, or in Ohio or in New Jersey. But yet New York says, oh, wait a minute, you have a Pennsylvania handgun permit.
I mentioned that. I've never heard it mentioned before. To me,
we'll get you got these printouts before I mentioned Bill from the feds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, and it'll say Utah, and then it'll list all the states in Utah, in Kentucky, okay, and Pennsylvania. It'll list all the states of Pennsylvania recognized. New York.
I'm planning a trip to Oklahoma in April, and I had to add 8 hours to my drive just to stay, like he's saying, within states where I can legal. Even then, I can't carry to Pennsylvania. So for that time period, I'm going to have to do the federal transportation law, which is just unload the gun, put the ammunition separate, lock the container, double lock,
not in the passenger car.
Right, it's going to be in an area that's not readily accessible. Get through Pennsylvania for those 2 hours or whatever it is, and then get in Ohio, and then I can go back to the process again, and then do my 8 hour endured route longer than normal. So yeah, and that's the thing is, again, if we make these laws, my stance is I think
is that we should go through all the gun laws and check all these things. Like, for example, NRA instructors are allowed, or people competing in college events for shooting sports, can't come into the state with their state permit. But if a person's traveling to visit family, they have no right to self-protection whatsoever. But if you're planning to compete in sport, then that's fine.